Was the bye week a little different for you in that it's a new offense? It required some review, some what's working, some what's not working. I mean, was it a more valuable time? Did you pack more of that stuff into it than normal?
Yes, for sure. Like to be able to go back and self-scout, because it really has been a whirlwind of just Groundhog Day. Every week's the same. Just trying to grind and get ready for the next opponent, and so it's very valuable for me. One, health-wise, with everything that's been happening and happened in that game, it's been happening. It was good to be able to rest, and that was much needed for my body. I feel the best I've felt in a long time right now. But whenever you don't get that time, it's hard to know where you're at until you have that time, right? So mentally and physically, I think was, for me and for a lot of our guys, very valuable.
Derek, after self-evaluation, what were maybe some of the main focuses for you that you want to correct with 7 games left?
I'm never going to tell you the things I write down. You ask such great questions. You really do. I'm so sorry. But I just always keep things to myself. But there were definitely things that I can say this. Like I would see something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you get going and you're like, I can't believe I missed that. Boom. So there's definitely things to improve on that you see, and hopefully those things come to fruition. With these next games for sure.
Well, what is your level of satisfaction, though, with how the first 10 games have gone for you in this offense?
Well, it's been a roller coaster. At the beginning was up and down, a lot of tough times. Last 5 games were really good. We did a lot of really good things. We started getting better in areas we had to get better, and we were improving. We had 3 drives or so in the Minnesota game. Then I got hurt in the next one. And it's like, man, we were just starting to do this. And so it was definitely more positive as you look at it, the things we were doing in the last 5 games, and the cohesiveness, the unity, the timing, the things that we were doing better. I think we were last 5 weeks, top 5, top 3 offense, in certain areas. And so you look at that and you say, okay, how do we keep doing that? But you have to also go back to the first 5 to make sure you stay on top of making sure that we don't fall back into some traps for overlooking things.
Were you also dealing with was it like a aggravation of your shoulder in the Minnesota game?
Yeah.
Or was it new?
It was not new.
Okay.
No, it was just basically the same thing. But to be able to not have to come back on a Wednesday or Thursday and practice and do the workouts that I do and things like that, it was nice to be able to do some other things to help it feel better and have some time to rest. So, it was the shoulder. I don't think would have kept me out.
Yeah.
But it was definitely something.
Did that require any rehab during the bye week, or was that more just you needed rest?
I was here every day. Yeah, I was here every day getting rehab. I had to, and then plus with the protocol stuff, that I think since my last concussion, I got my rookie year. The protocol has definitely changed, and there's a lot of stuff you have to do. So I was here all week, but it was all right. My kids had school, so it was good.
Hey, Derek, how much do you miss when you miss a guy like Michael Thomas? And how do you kind of make up for his productivity with someone else?
Yeah, I've always said, whenever you lose a player, it's always next man up in football, but you can't just replace somebody. Someone has to fill that role, but they're going to fill it in a different way, and they're going to be them. They're going to be who they are. And so, while Mike is out, you miss him. You love him to death. You love his tenacity and his work ethic and his, the violence that he plays with. But it's a great opportunity for other guys to step up. And, that's how I got my chance in this league. There was an injury, and I got to play in a preseason game, and I did well. And, man, I got to find out who I was, And so, it'll be a great opportunity for guys to have an opportunity to play and make a name for themselves while Mike is resting and rehabbing and hopefully get him back as soon as possible.
When you talk about the protocol changing a bunch in the last 10 years, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, just some of the things they ask you to do. There's different levels and tests you have to take and to clear. I thought it was a lot back then, but even now it's even more strenuous and a lot of detail. They really, you could tell that there's been an emphasis, and since I had my last, concussion protocol or whatever, there's definitely been an emphasis made there to improve that area, and they're doing everything that they can. I would say from the league's point of view and from our team's point of view that they're doing everything they can to make sure that you are safe, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to play football for another 20 years. I got a life to live after this, and they want to make sure that guys are all right. They're there for their families and all this way down the road, and so you appreciate it. sometimes frustrating as a player in the moment, but you appreciate it like as a husband and as a dad for sure.
Does that make you feel more confident going back out there, knowing that you've gone through all these maybe extra steps that they do?
Oh yeah, and what's I think they put those steps in place for probably guys like me that if it was back then I would just be like, I'm fine. I would have went back out there no matter what, and so you appreciate people taking care of you in that way. There's protocols in place for it. You have to pass them or you can't play. So I definitely feel confident for sure. I'm good.
How perfectly timed was the bye week for you and the team, considering the situation, the physical and the mental hurdles already that have gone on this year?
Yeah, I know for me personally, I needed it, and it was great timing. It was great timing. You always want a bye week later in the season, but if you think about it, from training camp on, that's a lot of football, in a row, and it's a grind, and it is what it is, and you get excited about it because that's what you work all off season to do, but you don't know how tired you are, how bad your body feels until you get some time off, and then you feel, that next Wednesday practice when you do go out there, how much better you feel and rejuvenated and all that. So, I think for me personally, I can speak for that. It was great. I can, other guys on the team, talking to them, it was much needed. But we're excited, man. We're in first place after everything we've been through and haven't been played perfect on both sides yet. And we feel like, man, if we can just bring that together and let's just see what we can do down the stretch. It's an exciting time for us for sure.
How does that feel? The fact that everything that has gone on, nothing has been as good as you wanted it to be, but you're still in first place in the division.
Yeah, I mean, that's the number one goal is to want to win the division, and we have a great challenge this week to try and keep that lead. And they're gonna, we're gonna go into their place in a hostile environment against a really good football team that wants nothing more than to beat us up. And so for us, it's going to take a great game, a physical game, a violent game, and but hopefully coming off this, we're rested, ready to go with the right mindset for this stretch run.
Derek, you lose Michael Thomas, but you get a little extra time to work with Marquez Callaway. How was that started out initially with chemistry?
Yeah, he's been great. I've loved being around him. Obviously, the guys all know him from being here previously, but for me, just getting to know him, he's just such a great guy. He's a great practice player. Works really hard, and so when his number is called, I know that he'll be ready for sure. You can see it in his demeanor and his body language for sure.
Derek, being in first, heading off the bye week and into a rivalry game, your first time in this rivalry, do you feel like it does give you guys some juice being in first place and being able to hold on to that heading into this game?
Yeah, and it's I say that to be positive, but at the end of the day, first place right now means nothing. So we understand that. Yes, we are happy about that. Even with not playing perfectly, at the same time, offensively, defensively. But at the same time, we understand the work that needs to be done to keep that. We understand the challenge that lies ahead for us to be able to hold on to that. And so I think a lot of guys spend a lot of time resting, relaxing, getting their minds right, getting their bodies right, to make sure that, first time, this season we play Atlanta, that we're ready to go, because they're a really good football team, well coached, they play hard. Great scheme, and great players. So we got to bring it, and so hopefully we're ready to play.
Derek, what are one or two of the most encouraging things that you think you guys did find during that 5-game stretch you were talking about?
Well, I thought some of the things we did, we ran the ball well, especially in that Minnesota game. We started to run the ball well, under center and things like that. I thought that was positive. The passing timing and protection, was better in those last 5 games. I know the offensive line was working hard. I was working hard. The receivers, tight ends, backs, we're all working hard to improve. And everyone always says that you want to play your best football at the end. And hopefully, we keep doing this improving, and it all comes together at the same time. Both sides of the ball. Because at the end of the day, all we want to do is win. But I thought those were a couple areas that we started to improve and do things better. Doesn't mean we'll do them better, by just sitting on the couch. But those were things we started to do better, and hopefully that will just continue to improve for sure.
With A.T. Perry, entering the season behind a bunch of guys in the depth chart, how much have you gotten to work with him one-on-one? Like, is there a kind of tricky balance with figuring out how to get time with some of the guys, like on the scout team or practice squad or whatnot? Yeah, for sure. There's been a couple of guys that were practice team players or new to the team, and the one I can remember most recent for me was Darren Waller. He was a guy that we got off Baltimore's practice squad, and he gets out to practice. I'm like, I should probably spend some extra time with this guy, and
I would spend time throwing his rep in the one-on-one or throwing his rep in the routes on air and things like that. And AT was a guy that I got to work with a little bit in the off season. When the OTAs, Mike wasn't in the OTAs, and rehabbing and doing those things, and got to know him a little bit there. And then in training camp, there's days where some guys have rest days and things like that. Well, he was out there and he was playing, and we got to work there, and I got to even just to watch and take in the reps, because you know how this league is. Everyone, you got to be ready to play at all times. There's a lot of games, a lot of injuries, and so I was paying attention to him, and I think very highly of him. I think that he's going to be a really good player. I think he's young, he's raw, but I'm excited for what he can potentially do for sure.
When you have 6'5" on the outside, does that, I don't know, change, but do you adjust how you kind of read things when okay, he can get up higher than anybody else?
There's some different type of throws you can make for sure. For a guy like AT, I've always had guys that I love to throw to that can go up and get a football. Waller was one. Andre Holmes was another guy I love to throw the ball up to. Crabtree was another guy. These guys that's kind of their style of play. It's always nice to have that. You can't have just 10 of those kind of guys. You want to be able to do different routes and different things, but the thing that impresses me the most with AT is he can play those, but he can drop his hips and run routes too. And at the line of scrimmage, he's really good. Usually bigger guys, they just kind of make one move and go. He's got a release game, and he can play the game. And so there's things that you see in him that, yes, there are things that he can do, but he can also do some of the other stuff that you like that other guys can do too.
You could roll all the way to the left sideline and throw across the field to the right sideline.
Do I think I'm capable? I'm capable. Do I, in that situation when I've thrown it, probably done the same thing? Will we do that every time? I don't think we'll do that every time. But it was encouraging. It was good. I think my favorite part is that when he was in the game, though, what I can remember when I was in, when I was in there was, his confidence in the huddle. He makes his first NFL catch, and he comes back, and I slapped him. I said, "Congrats!" And he just blacked out, like he's just ready to play. And I was like, "Okay, I like this guy a lot." And then we missed on one, and it's a good teaching moment. Like that stuff's going to happen with the young guys. Like, "Hey, man, if you feel this, do this." And he's like, "Okay." And his demeanor wasn't like, "Oh, in the head down, all that." His body language was great. He's like, "I got you. Next time I'll do it." And so I learned a lot about him just from that little bit of time. But I don't know if I'll do that every time.
Derek, what do you make of going back to the Falcons game and some of the states and everything, that you guys are already in the driver's seat now, but if you win this one, you're more in the driver's seat, or you guys have the odds, if you guys win, are like 82% to make the playoffs. Just what do you kind of make of the stakes of everything going?
Well, that's huge. At the end of the day, I've been on a team that had almost little to no odds to make the playoffs, and we did. We had an interim coach, a whole bunch of guys that nobody wanted, and we were able to do it. And so the percentages and all those things don't mean anything until that last week and all the games are over. But for us, the main thing will just be to remain that we can't give in to complacency. When it feels good, when you're doing well, you can't give into that. You got to be uncomfortable. You got to push. You got to go, because that's what other teams are coming to do. When you're in front, people are coming to get you. And I know that. Even when I've been on teams that weren't in first, you're looking at that team right ahead of you, and you're like, all right, well, they're going to get our best shot. Because that's what we got to do. So we can't get complacent. We got to be ready to go.
Do you get to see you in the second half of the game?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I had seen my family just so they could get out real quick, and then I was with the doctors. But I got to see a little bit for sure. Yeah, but I watched it afterwards. Yeah. But I could hear the crowd.
I meant during the game. Yeah, I figured you watched it.
In the locker room, I could hear the crowd reaction, so I kind of,
kind of knew what was going on.
I kind of knew what was going on. Yeah.
Was it kind of just deja vu in terms of AFC North road trips? It seems like that's kind of a rough couple of games.
For going what?
Green Bay.
Oh! You talking about deja vu of getting hurt?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Like I've never been hurt this much in my life in one season. So it's been, if I'm honest, if I'm human with you for a second, it's been a little frustrating. You work really hard in the weight room and things like that to try and prevent as much as you can, take care of your body, all that. So that part's been a little frustrating, but I had a week off to get back right. So we'll be ready.
Thank you, Derek.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Sorry, excuse me.
Thanks, Derek.